Hello there, and this is the last list I'm making of my favorite music here. Now, you'll find that in my collection a lot of the artists that I tend to like, or albums I tend to like rather, are releases by artists that are not as well known, just by coincidence, not because I'm just trying to be different. And this is one of those cases. You know who Billy Ocean is. He's the guy that did Caribbean Queen and all that stuff. He had many hits in the mid-'80s that were very poppy. But in this earlier period of his career, this album is called Nights Feel Like Getting Down from 1981. He is actually doing a lot of horn-based R&B. This sounds more like an early Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones release. It still sounds like Billy Ocean, but Nights Feel Like Getting Down is one of his earlier hits, definitely in the Michael Jackson vein. Much funkier, much more percussive, much more Afro-Cuban in a way. A lot more experimental, really, but wonderful, pan-continental club music, basically, I would call it. I mean, you just have to listen to it. Definitely an album worth checking out. Now, I mentioned Santana before when I was talking about, Prince. And this album came out in 1976. Now, a lot of people kind of give Santana a lot of flack for this album for some reason. But actually, it's a big commercial comeback for him. It contains Leon Ndugu Chancellor from the Georgia Duke Band, and I think the lead singer on this album is, I believe it's Greg Walker, but I'm not sure. Let me open it up. Yeah, it is Greg Walker. And this particular album contains songs like Take Me With You, Tell Me Are You Tired, and Let It Shine, which are all very wah-wah guitar-powered, kind of Stevie Wonder sort of funk songs. But it's still definitely Santana. Dance Sister Dance, the opener, has still got that Latin feel written all over it. It's got everything you could possibly like about Santana. Poppy, funky grooves with a lot of vocals, that Latin style of his, that jamming. It's kind of the beginning of Santana going into a new, kind of somewhat more poppier phase. But it's actually probably, if I could single out one Santana album from the 70s I love more than any others, and I have so many favorite Santanas. I have all the stuff from the 70s. It's terrific, but this one I single out as my favorite collection. I could have 3 or 4, but my case isn't big enough for now. But if I make this video in the future, you might see more Santanas, but for now, this has to be it. Steely Dan again, Asia. Again, all I need to say about this. Deacon Blues, Pegs, Shall I Go On? It goes on and on and on and on and on, I'm telling you, with this one. Asia, check it out. You probably have heard or know of most of the songs. Josie is another one. Hit Parade. Definitely a Hit Parade kind of album. Luther Vandross, the late Luther Vandross, Never Too Much. Great song. Sugar and Spice, another great song. She's a Super Lady, another great song. Marcus Miller, again, it's Luther Vandross. Check it out. Definitely worth your time. My favorite Luther Vandross album he probably ever recorded. His most soulful and most funky. Another Manhattan Transfer. 1980-81, Mecca for Moderns. Like that cover. They had a song on here called Boy from New York City, a cover of an old kind of doo-wop song. And On the Boulevard, which is kind of another Jay Graydon style production. There's also an instrumental on here. Well, it's not an instrumental, but kind of a wordless vocal called Kafka. A more impressionistic piece, more jazzy funky. I love that one too. Now, needless to say, there's some Stevie Wonder in my collection. This is fulfilling this first finale. Of course, you all know Stevie Wonder, so I don't need to go into what's on here, but this album was recorded after Stevie Wonder had a near-death experience in a near-fatal car crash, and this album, it's kind of therapeutic. A lot of people going through crises can gather through some of the philosophizing he's doing on this album and still have a great time dancing and singing while they're doing it. That's the magic of Stevie Wonder to me. If I get my collection a little bigger, there are going to be some albums by Hall & Oates and the Beatles in there, but for now, anyway. This is Greg Phillinganes. Now, you might not know this guy's name if you're not a real musician fan, but Greg Phillinganes played on Michael Jackson's records. He is probably, along with Paulinho da Costa, he has probably played on more sessions than you could ever imagine. Eric Clapton. And this is his first solo album. In a way, it sounds a lot more like a Stevie Wonder album than a Michael Jackson was. The melodies and the music has a unique stamp to it. The chord progressions are very unique. He does a cover of an old standard called Girl Talk on it, but his originals are extremely captivating. He actually does kind of a rock song on here, a rock song on keyboard called Big Man. You want to check that out. The album's called Significant Gains by Greg Phillinganes, and another song called I Don't Really Want to Be the One. You want to seek both those out. Those are my personal favorite songs on this album. And a ballad called Forever Now. And I Do Love You, I believe is the name of the song. Baby, I Do Love You. You want to seek those songs out if you want to hear what Greg Phillinganes is all about. Rufus and Chaka Khan, Master Jam, 1979. Even Rufus and Chaka Khan fans don't always like this album too much. Quincy Jones and Rod Temperton were involved in it, so hey, it's going to be in my collection. Do You Love What You Feel was the hit off this album. They also did another great song on this called Rock the Rockaway, which is a little bit funkier. And another song that's kind of interesting called Live in Me. You want to seek this out. And Master Jam's a great song, too. If you like that Michael Jackson late 70s, early 80s sound, you're going to love this. I got to thank Michael for hipping me to anything that Quincy and Rod Temperton did together. Anyway, Stevie Wonder. Now, this is probably the newest album in my collection. 2005's A Time to Love. This album isn't quite what he did in the 70s, but the mixture of music is so eclectic for its time that I just had to include it. There's so many songs on here and so many great ones I could go into, but look for Stevie Wonder's A Time to Love album. A lot of people slept on it when it came out, but it deserves revisitation. Stevie, I am waiting for your next album. I hope you have one. We need one. More Stevie Wonder, Inner Visions. Living for the City, Higher Ground. It's one of his classics. It just really had to be in this collection, I'm afraid. It just had to be. Stevie Wonder Characters. This came out in 87. A lot of people skimp on this album because it was made in the 80s. But it has some wonderful songs on it, like Skeletons is a really great one. Personally, I like Free. I think he could have actually made this album kind of in 1975. I mean, it sounds like the 80s, but it's got so many good songs on it. Look up Stevie Wonder's Characters. You'll find some great music here. All the songs are really fantastic. The other Stevie Wonder one. This is a rarity. Stevie Wonder made this while he was still under the control of Motown, and they were still overseeing a lot of his work, but he was about to renegotiate his contract for more creative control, and this is a transitional album. It's the last one on his old Motown contract. It's called Where I'm Coming From. The hit off this album was called If You Really Love Me. You've heard it on Oldies Radio a lot, and Never Dreamed You'd Leave in Summer. But there's one song on here that really gets me every time, and it's called Look Around. It's very poetic. Almost sounds like something that Lord Byron might write. And I mean, it shows you that, you know, creativity is definitely something that can be gained from everybody on this planet. And they can contribute in different ways. And Stevie was showing something on here that, you know, a bit of influence of English Baroque music. He was starting to get a little funkier on this album with Do Yourself a Favor. And he did some kind of topical blues songs like I Want to Talk to You About the Generation Gap. You want to see some stuff from Stevie Wonder's Where I'm Coming From out. It's a Stevie Wonder out. It's a Stevie Wonder you may never have ever heard before. I have a lot of music by XTC. They're another group from England. XTC made this album called Murmur. Their leader, Andy Partridge, had some stage fright issues, and like the Beatles, they decided to go off and become a studio-based band and not tour. So this was their Sgt. Pepper, in a sense. A lot of songs on here have an extremely Arabic feeling, a lot of chanting, a lot of drumming, but there are some great pure pop songs on here. kind of an electronic, Paul McCartney-like song called Wonderland, one of my favorites XTC ever did, and in loving memory of a name, kind of a topical tribute song to forgotten fallen soldiers, another very Beatle-type song, Annie Partridge's Funk Papa Roll, rocks out pretty nicely. Check out this album, XTC's Mummer, again. Kind of a semi-unknown band, but worth checking out, especially this album. Now, we all know about Wham! We all know about 1983 and Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go and George Michael and all that. This is their debut album. It wasn't nearly as popular or well-known as their later material. This album is actually more funk and hip-hop influenced, with some wonderful songs. My favorite is Club Tropicana, and another one on here called Nothing Was the Same in the Light. Wham Rap is good too. It shows a more youthful side of them. A side of George Michael's you probably never heard. There's sort of a rebellious side, sort of a punk side here that has a certain type of appeal. But basically, it's apparently the genre of funk was better known and better appreciated in England than it was here. I think we all consider it part of disco, and a lot of people didn't like disco, so they condemned funk as being disco. But in England, they just put it into new wave dance music, and this is the product of that. And I think that this is what I think of when I think of Wham. I think this is really more Wham than even Wham later became. But that's my favorite CD collection for now. I might expand on it and change it in the future, but that's where it is now. So if you're wondering where I come from musically, just watch this in the last 4 videos, and that's where it's at. I'll see you next time.